What if I told you that every atom in your body is older than the Earth, that the calcium in your bones, the oxygen in your lungs, the iron flowing through your veins, were all forged inside stars that lived, burned, and died billions of years ago? That every time you move, every time you breathe, you're carrying the wreckage of ancient suns. But it goes deeper. Inside each atom, hidden within the silence of matter, is the entire story of the universe itself. A story of fire, of collapse, of violence beyond imagining. You are not separate from the universe. You are its memory, its debris, its dream of continuity. Inside every atom you will ever touch. Welcome to the universe hiding inside every atom. You might believe you're something separate, a mind housed inside a body, walking through a universe that exists out there, vast, distant, indifferent. But that belief is an illusion. The universe isn't something you live in. It's something you are. Every atom in your body was forged in a process older than memory itself. Atoms assembled not here on Earth, but in the nuclear furnaces of ancient stars, stars that lived their brilliant lives, then collapsed into silence long before our sun was born. When those stars died, they scattered their elements across the void. Dust, gas, radiation, the debris of fire. That dust condensed. It formed new stars, new planets, and eventually, it formed you. You are not a visitor here. You are not a stranger to the cosmos. You are its continuation, a living bridge between events so ancient they might as well belong to another reality. Your hand, your heart, your breath, all assembled from particles that once lived inside supernovae, so violent they outshined entire galaxies. And yet, those particles behave with eerie familiarity. They cling together. They organize, they persist, as if carrying out a memory they cannot forget. The atoms inside you are survivors, wreckage of cataclysm, molded into structure, but they are not frozen relics. They are dynamic, restless, always in motion. Look close enough at any piece of you, and you won't find a solid object. You'll find vibrations, you'll find probabilities, you'll find emptiness. Inside every atom there is almost nothing. The nucleus, dense, massive, is surrounded by clouds of electrons that exist more as likelihoods than as places. Between the nucleus and its electron cloud is a chasm so vast that if scaled up, the atom would be the size of a cathedral, and the nucleus, a single grain of sand floating at the center. You are built from this emptiness. You are the architecture of absence, held together not by solidity, but by the invisible handshake of forces that resist collapse. The strong nuclear force binds protons and neutrons together in defiance of the natural chaos that would tear them apart. Electromagnetism holds electrons close without ever letting them touch. You are a balancing act, a fragile compromise between explosion and collapse, and you walk through a universe made of the same compromise. Galaxies spin because of the same forces that cling inside your chest. Black holes form because gravity overwhelms the same resistance that keeps your feet on the ground. You are not merely in the universe, you are made from its consequences. The iron in your blood once traveled through the corpse of a dying star. The oxygen in your lungs was born in the ashes of galaxies. The universe did not create you as an afterthought. You are not separate. You are a continuation of the first light dash, the first expansion, the first breath the cosmos ever took. And if you could look closer, if you could shrink yourself down beyond cells, beyond molecules, beyond atoms themselves, you would find the lines between you and the universe blur into nothing. Your electrons are not localized. They are clouds of possibility. Your particles are not objects. They are excitations, ripples in fields that stretch across all of space and time. The atoms in your hand are not distinct from the atoms in the air. Not truly. They interact. They trade places. They vibrate in symphonies so fast, so small, that no mind can fully grasp their scale. You breathe in stardust every second. You exhale it back into the universe every moment you are alive. You are not you in isolation. You are you in circulation, a brief eddy in a river that began flowing billions of years ago and will flow billions more after you are gone. The idea that you are a closed system, bounded by skin owned by self, is a story evolution taught you to survive. But the universe never told that story. The universe told a different story. It said, there is no boundary. There is only change. There is no separateness. There is only flow. There is no permanence. There is only becoming. And deep inside every atom you carry, every trembling particle, every restless vibration, the universe is still writing, still expanding, still remembering. You are not a spectator. You are not even a participant. You are the act itself. You are the universe, momentarily aware of itself. And when your atoms move, when your mind flickers, when your life unfolds, it is not apart from the universe. It is the universe unfolding inside you, through you, as you. There was a time when even atoms did not exist. No hydrogen, no carbon, no oxygen, no matter, no light, only chaos, only energy, only the raw, unshaped furnace of the newborn universe. 13.8 billion years ago, the universe began, not with a gentle whisper, but with a violence so absolute that the very fabric of space and time tore itself into existence. For the first fleeting fractions of a second, there were no particles, no structures, no forces as we know them. There was only a roiling sea of unimaginable heat and density, a plasma of pure energy, where matter and antimatter flickered into being and annihilated each other almost as fast. It was a universe so dense, so hot, that the concept of an atom would have been meaningless. Nothing could hold together, nothing could endure. But the universe was expanding, and as it expanded, it cooled. Not calmly, not gracefully, but with a desperate, furious shedding of temperature and pressure. And somewhere between 1 microsecond and 1 second after the Big Bang, the first pieces of matter took shape. Quarks, the ghostly, flickering fragments of reality, slowed just enough to bind together. Gluons, the carriers of the strong force, stitched them into protons and neutrons. And for the first time in history, the building blocks of atoms existed. But atoms themselves were still impossible. The early universe was still too hot, too violent. Photons, packets of light, carried so much energy that any time a proton tried to capture an electron, the photon would slam into it and tear it apart. The universe was a battlefield of forces, creation and destruction happening faster than thought. A boiling plasma, bright and lethal. And then it cooled a little more. About 380,000 years after the Big Bang, the universe reached a critical threshold. The temperature dropped low enough, to around 3,000 degrees Kelvin, that photons no longer had the power to blast apart every forming structure. And in that fragile window of balance, the electrons could finally be captured by protons. The first true atoms were born, simple, elegant, mostly hydrogen, the simplest atom of all with a single proton and a single electron, a little helium, a trace of lithium. These first atoms were not crafted by life. They were not shaped by stars. They were written directly into the cooling breath of space and time itself. And when they formed, something extraordinary happened. The universe became transparent. Before that moment, light couldn't travel more than a tiny fraction of a meter without slamming into particles, scattering in every direction. But with atoms now forming, space cleared. Photons were suddenly free to move, unobstructed, across the vastness. And they still move today. Every direction you look, you can detect them. Faint, ancient, stretched thin by the expanding universe into microwave wavelengths. We call it the cosmic microwave background, a literal photograph of the moment the universe first became visible. a ghost image draped across the cosmos, whispering a story that has been traveling for nearly 14 billion years. Those first atoms, tiny, simple, pure, would go on to seed everything. They drifted through the darkness. They clumped together under the pull of gravity. They pooled into clouds that grew dense and unstable. And in time, they collapsed. Gravity crushed those clouds into the first stars, and inside those stars, a new kind of alchemy began. Hydrogen atoms, the lightest of all, were fused together under immense heat and pressure. Their protons smashed so violently that they overcame the natural repulsion of like charges, merging into helium, releasing energy in the form of light and heat. And with each fusion, mass was lost, converted into pure energy, as Einstein's equation promised. It was in the cores of these first stars that the real magic of atoms began. Because fusion didn't stop with helium. In larger, hotter stars, helium fused into carbon, carbon into oxygen, oxygen into heavier and heavier elements, nitrogen, neon, magnesium, silicon, sulfur, iron. Each fusion step building the atoms that would one day form planets, oceans, trees and minds capable of asking these questions. But even that was not enough. Iron, the heaviest element formed in regular stellar fusion, marked a dead end. When stars tried to fuse iron, they no longer released energy, they consumed it. And so the largest stars, when they filled their cores with iron, died spectacularly. They collapsed under their own weight, imploding in milliseconds, before rebounding in cataclysmic supernovae. And in the searing shock waves of those explosions, forged in temperatures and pressures beyond imagination, the heaviest elements were born: gold, uranium, platinum. Elements heavier than iron, thrown into existence in the death throes of massive stars. Every atom of gold ever mined, every atom of uranium in the Earth's crust, every trace of platinum in your electronics, all created in a cosmic murder. Every heavy atom you encounter was born in the death of a star. And so when we look at the world around us, the soil, the water, the breath in your chest, we are looking at the fallout of ancient explosions. We are walking on the debris of supernovae. We are breathing the ash of stellar furnaces, and the atoms that make you, the hydrogen that fuels your cells, the carbon that shapes your form, the oxygen that keeps your brain alive, were all forged in these violent births. You are not a collection of matter, you are a collection of memories, memories of heat, of gravity, of light and fire and silence. Each atom in your body is a survivor, an ancient traveler, a witness to the history of the universe itself. And inside those atoms, if you could look small enough, quiet enough, deep enough, you would find the map of forces, the fingerprint of creation, the echo of a moment when nothing was, and then everything was. Atoms are not just the building blocks of matter, they are the repositories of memory, carrying within them the silent story of everything that has ever been. And somehow, against all odds, they arrange themselves into you, a being made of ancient debris, asking ancient questions, a part of the universe that has finally learned to wonder about itself. The early universe was a simple place: hydrogen, helium, a trace of lithium. Three elements drifting through darkness, clumping into clouds, pulled by the invisible hand of gravity. But complexity was still a dream. The building blocks of life, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, iron, did not exist. There were no planets, no oceans, no possibility of breath or blood or thought. The universe, for all its fire and fury, was still unfinished. It needed a forge, a place where atoms could be reshaped, forced into new identities under impossible pressure. A place where death would mean rebirth, where destruction would carve the path toward life. That forge was the star. The first stars were monsters, colossal giants, far larger than our sun, burning hotter, living faster, and dying young. Inside their cores, hydrogen atoms collided at speeds and pressures unimaginable by human standards. When two protons met, they should have repelled each other. like the same poles of a magnet. But the pressure was too great, the energy too high. Quantum tunneling, a phenomenon where particles slip through barriers they should not cross, allowed the protons to merge. When they fused, they released energy, not as a side effect, but as the essential act itself. Fusion, the same force that powers every star you've ever seen in the night sky. The stars became cosmic engines, alchemists transmuting the universe's raw hydrogen into something new, helium. But the story didn't end there. As the hydrogen fuel was consumed, the core contracted under gravity, heating up even more. The star burned hotter, pushing helium atoms together to form carbon, and then oxygen, and then neon, magnesium, silicon, sulfur. Each new layer of fusion formed like the layers of an onion, each one heavier than the last, each a testament to the star's desperate struggle against its own collapse. In the heart of a massive star, the core becomes a crucible, temperatures climbing into the hundreds of millions of degrees. At these extremes, matter behaves differently. Nuclei move like ocean waves, flowing and crashing into each other, fusing and remaking themselves with every impact. The elements of life, the carbon that forms your cells, the oxygen that fuels your breath, the iron that courses through your veins, all were born in these violent, burning hearts. And the star's life becomes a race against time. With each new fusion reaction, energy is released. Outward pressure pushing back against the relentless inward pull of gravity. But fusion can only go so far. When a star fuses silicon into iron, it reaches a dead end. Iron does not release energy when fused. Instead, it consumes energy. The star, having fought gravity with fusion for millions of years, suddenly has no more weapons left. Its core, now filled with iron, collapses under its own weight. And in less than a second, the collapse triggers one of the most violent events in the universe, a supernova. The outer layers of the star are blasted into space at incredible speeds. The core may become a neutron star or collapse entirely into a black hole. But in the explosion, something remarkable happens. For a brief, furious moment, the temperatures and pressures become so extreme that iron nuclei are slammed together, overcoming their natural resistance. New elements, heavier than iron, are forged in the fire. Gold, silver, platinum, uranium. The heavy elements are born in death, and they are flung across the galaxy, scattering seeds for future worlds. Your gold ring? Forged in the collapse of a massive star. The uranium that powers reactors, shaped in a dying giant's final scream. The atoms that make up everything you see, and everything you are, came from these cosmic funerals. The next generation of stars formed from this enriched debris, their planets condensed from dust heavy with metals and minerals capable of complex chemistry. The universe, once a simple soup of hydrogen and helium, had evolved into something capable of astonishing complexity, capable of life, capable of thought, capable of wondering where it all came from. The forge of the stars did not just build elements, it built possibility. And possibility, given time and structure, becomes story. It becomes worlds where atoms can assemble into oceans, into forests, into creatures that gaze upward and ask, "What am I?" You are not made from a single moment. You are made from millions of years of stellar generations, the ashes of stars that lived, burned, collapsed, and gave their substance to the future. You are not made of simple matter. You are made of ancestry. Every atom in your body has a pedigree that stretches back across time, from the Big Bang through the first stars, through the crucible of death, to the dust that coalesced into the earth. And when you die, when your atoms return to the soil and air, you will become part of that story again, recycled, reformed, returned. A cloud of hydrogen once collapsed into a star. A star burned itself into iron. A supernova tore that star apart. Dust became planets. Planets birthed life. Life built civilizations. Civilizations looked back at the stars and asked, "Where did we come from?" And the answer was written in the iron of their blood, in the carbon of their hearts, in the oxygen of their breath. You are not a separate being. You are the universe, remembering itself through the language of atoms. The stars forged the elements. The elements forged the planets. The planets forged life, and life forged the only thing stranger than atoms themselves: awareness. The ability not just to exist, but to wonder. And so the forge of the stars burns on, not just in the heavens, but inside you. Every heartbeat, every breath, every thought, carrying the echo of fires that once outshone the galaxies themselves. Every atom tells a story, not just a chemical story, but a cosmic one. Because atoms are not just ingredients, they are messages, carried across space and time, whispering the history of everything that came before you. When you touch a stone, when you sip water, when you breathe cool air into your lungs, you are holding a letter written by the universe itself. And you, without knowing it, are reading it. Atoms are survivors. They endure catastrophe. They traverse the void. They outlast stars, planets, even the collapse of galaxies. The hydrogen in your water glass was born less than a second after the Big Bang, unchanged for nearly 14 billion years. The oxygen you inhale every few seconds was forged inside the furnace of stars that no longer exist, their light extinguished before Earth ever formed. The calcium in your bones? It came from a supernova so distant in time and space that its echoes have long since faded into the cosmic background. You are built from fragments of 1,000,000 different stars, fossils of ancient fires, but atoms are more than just old. They are persistent witnesses. They carry information. Inside every atom's mass, its charge, its spin, its behavior, is the imprint of the forces that shaped it. An atom of carbon is a time capsule. Its stability proof of a delicate balance between the strong nuclear force and electromagnetism, crafted in the interior of a long-dead giant. An atom of iron is a signature dash. A trace of a stellar core's death throws a relic of nuclear pressure that tore itself apart in a final, blinding flash. When we study the atoms around us, we are not just studying matter, we are studying history. Consider this. In the spectra of distant stars, we can see the fingerprints of atoms. Light, when it passes through atoms, is absorbed at specific frequencies, leaving dark lines in the spectrum, patterns unique to each element. By reading those lines, we can tell what stars are made of. We can measure the composition of galaxies billions of light years away. We can detect the elements created in cosmic explosions so distant that their light is only now reaching us. Atoms are not silent. They speak dash, in frequencies, in emissions, in the quiet language of energy and absorption. And they speak across the greatest distances imaginable. It is because of atoms that we know the universe is expanding. As galaxies recede from us, their light shifts to longer, redder wavelengths. A cosmic Doppler effect, first detected by the telltale lines of atoms stretched by the swelling fabric of space. It is because of atoms that we know the universe had a beginning. Because the ratio of hydrogen to helium, frozen into place when the universe was just minutes old, is written in the composition of every star, every cloud, every breath. The atoms are our messengers, our historians, our memory keepers. Without them, the universe would be a silence we could never break. But because of them, the universe speaks. And it says, "I was here. I was born in fire. I expanded, cooled, formed stars, died, and was reborn. I became planets. I became oceans. I became life. I became you." The atoms in your body did not choose you. They wandered across the cosmos for eons, slipping through interstellar clouds, drifting in the gravitational tides of newborn stars, settling into worlds where chemistry could take hold. You are not their first home. You will not be their last. When you die, your atoms will return to the earth. They will rejoin the rivers, the trees, the clouds. They will become new forms, new stories, and the message they carry will continue. There is a beauty in this that transcends individuality. You are not a closed system, you are a waypoint, a passage, a brief arrangement of atoms along a journey that began at the dawn of time. You are made of travelers, you are made of survivors, you are made of witnesses to the greatest events the cosmos has ever known. And you carry that history silently in every cell, every breath, every heartbeat. You are not separate from history. You are history. The same atoms that formed ancient stars, the same atoms that built planets, the same atoms that burned in the hearts of supernovae are inside you now. And when you think, when you wonder, when you reach for meaning, it is the universe reaching back through you. Because atoms do not just build structures, they build memory, they build connection, they build the possibility of awareness itself. You are not just made of stardust, you're made of messages written by stars. Each atom is a syllable in a story that has been unfolding for billions of years. A story that is still being written, still being sung, still being carried forward, one form to the next. And it is a story with no final word, because the atoms, once created, do not stop. They move, they transform, they endure, they remember, they carry with them the signature of every explosion, every collapse, every act of creation that ever was. And inside you, right now, those messages continue to resonate. You are not separate from the universe's past. You are its living present. You are its unfolding future. You are a message still being delivered. And somewhere deep inside your atoms, the universe still whispers, I am. We think we know what an atom is. A tiny ball, a miniature solar system, a neat, tidy building block of matter. But the reality is far stranger. When you peel back the skin of matter, when you look deep enough inside the fabric of everything you see, everything you touch, everything you are, you find a world that defies common sense. You find a structure so empty, so improbable, that it seems almost impossible that anything could exist at all. An atom is not solid. It is almost entirely nothing. Picture this. If the nucleus of an atom, the dense core of protons and neutrons, were the size of a marble, the electron cloud orbiting it would stretch out to the size of a cathedral. The vast space in between, empty. Not just a little empty. Vast, aching, breathtakingly empty. When you press your hand against a table, it feels solid. When you walk upon the ground, it feels firm. But that solidity is an illusion. What you are feeling is not atoms touching atoms. It is fields repelling fields. It is forces, not matter. Your hand does not truly touch the table. It hovers just above it, separated by the electromagnetic resistance of countless unseen particles. You are a ghost. The table is a ghost. And the space between you, the space inside you, is greater than you can imagine. An atom's nucleus holds almost all of its mass, over 99.9%, packed into a volume so small it defies human comprehension. The electrons, tiny particles of negative charge, do not orbit the nucleus like planets around a sun. They exist in probabilistic clouds, regions where they might be found but never are in a simple, predictable path. Quantum mechanics teaches us that electrons are not miniature billiard balls. They are waves of probability, blurred, smeared, existing not in one place, but across a range of possibilities. An atom, then, is not a machine. It is a dance, a shimmering resonance between positive and negative, mass and emptiness, presence and absence. And somehow, despite being almost pure void, atoms have the audacity to build everything. From the mountains that rise against the sky, to the oceans that carve the shores, to the neurons firing in your brain as you listen to this very sentence. Every structure, every system, every thought arises from a framework of almost nothing. It is one of the greatest paradoxes in all of science. The atom is stable. It persists. It interacts. It gives rise to form, but it does so with almost no material substance. It succeeds not because of what it is, but because of how it behaves. Inside the nucleus, protons and neutrons huddle together, held fast by the strong nuclear force, the most powerful force known, yet operating over distances so small that they are meaningless on human scales. Without the strong force, the positively charged protons would repel each other violently. The nucleus would explode apart. But the strong force overrides that. It binds quarks into protons and neutrons. It binds protons and neutrons into nuclei. It stitches the heart of the atom together against overwhelming odds. And outside the nucleus, electrons are bound to it by electromagnetism. The same force that lights your cities and powers your devices. But electrons do not fall into the nucleus. They exist in defined energy levels, quantum states, hovering, circling, obeying laws not of touch and distance, but of probability and energy conservation. It is a system of perfect, delicate tension, a system that somehow resists chaos long enough for chemistry to happen, for molecules to form, for life to assemble. And what's even stranger, this architecture, this improbable, empty, fragile dance, is universal, across every corner of the cosmos, from the atoms in your bloodstream to the atoms in the heart of a distant star. The structure is the same proportions, the same forces, the same elegant emptiness. It is not a fluke, it is a design written into the laws of physics themselves. Change the mass of the proton by even a fraction. Change the strength of the strong force by even the slightest degree, and atoms could not exist. The universe would be sterile, structureless, silent. There would be no stars, no planets, no life, no you. It is as if the universe is balanced on a razor's edge, fine-tuned not for comfort, not for destiny, but for possibility. The possibility that complexity could arise. The possibility that matter could self-organize into something more. The possibility that empty space could become a stage for consciousness. And it all begins with the architecture of the atom. This improbable castle of emptiness and force. This fragile truce between chaos and order. Inside every atom, forces are struggling, binding, pushing, dancing. To maintain a structure that should, by all rights, be impossible. And yet they succeed, over and over again, for billions of years, across galaxies, across time. The same structure that allows a star to burn, allows a heart to beat. The same structure that binds a galaxy together, binds a molecule of DNA. There is no separation. The patterns that govern the grandest structures in the universe are the same patterns that govern the smallest. The atom is not just the building block of matter, it is the building block of story, of history, of memory, of meaning. Every breath you take is a testament to the atom's impossible structure. Every heartbeat, every moment of thought, every act of wonder. Atoms are not merely material, they are the architecture of possibility. They are the bridges between emptiness and experience. They are the scaffolding upon which the universe hangs its dreams. And inside every atom, inside every breath, every star, every thought, the universe is still building, still creating, still becoming, still dancing in the space between what is and what might be. Atoms exist because of a fragile balance, not because of their size, not because of their substance, but because of the invisible forces that weave them into being. Without these forces, unseen, relentless, perfectly tuned, the universe would be nothing but a silent spray of scattered energy, lost in the dark. There are 4 fundamental forces that govern everything: gravity, electromagnetism, the strong nuclear force, and the weak nuclear force. 4 forces to build a cosmos. But only 2 dominate the architecture of the atom, and through it, the architecture of you. The first is the strong nuclear force. It is the most powerful force in the known universe, and yet it operates only over the smallest imaginable distances. It binds quarks together to form protons and neutrons. It binds those protons and neutrons together to form atomic nuclei. Without the strong force, matter would not exist. The positive charges of protons would repel each other violently, ripping every atom apart before it ever had the chance to live. But the strong force is stronger than their mutual hatred. It binds protons together with a grip so powerful that it takes the violence of a supernova or the heart of a collider like the Large Hadron Collider to tear them apart. It is the glue that holds the visible universe together. And yet it is invisible. It does not radiate. It does not travel far. It does not announce itself. It simply is. A silent architect, shaping the foundations of existence.
But binding the nucleus is not enough.
Around the nucleus must orbit electrons, lighter, faster, dancing in probabilistic clouds. Holding them in place is the second great sculptor of atoms, electromagnetism. Electromagnetism is the force of attraction and repulsion between charged particles. It is the reason electrons are drawn to protons. Opposite charges attracting, pulling electrons into orbit. But just as important, electromagnetism governs the chemistry of atoms. It determines how atoms bond with each other, how molecules form, how energy is absorbed and emitted. Without electromagnetism, there would be no light, no heat, no chemical reactions, no life. The dance between the strong force and electromagnetism is delicate. Too strong, and matter would collapse. Too weak, and matter would never form. The universe balances on a razor's edge, where forces cancel and collide in just the right proportions to allow complexity to exist. But forces don't only build, they also threaten. Gravity, the weakest of all forces, is always pulling atoms toward one another. Gravity seems gentle in your daily life. It keeps your feet on the ground, causes a stone to fall, governs the tides. But across cosmic scales, gravity is relentless. It collapses clouds of atoms into stars. It binds stars into galaxies. It warps space and time around black holes. And if left unchecked, it can crush atoms themselves, forcing electrons into protons, creating neutrons, and eventually forging singularities where even light cannot escape. Gravity is the silent predator of the universe, always pulling, always demanding more. And then there is the weak nuclear force, subtle, elusive, but critical. It governs radioactive decay. It transforms protons into neutrons, and vice versa inside stellar cores. It enables the nuclear reactions that keep stars alive. Without the weak force, the sun would not shine. Fusion would grind to a halt. The universe would be a cold, dark cemetery of inert gas. These four forces, strong, electromagnetic, gravitational, and weak, are the threads from which the universe is woven. They are not things you can see. They are not substances. They are the relationships between the pieces, the silent negotiations, the tensions that hold the entire game together. When you touch your hand to your chest, you are feeling the sum of countless invisible agreements. The strong force binding your nuclei, electromagnetism keeping atoms structured, gravity anchoring you to the earth, the weak force ensuring that life's engines keep burning. You are not separate from these forces. You are these forces. You are their equilibrium. You are their outcome. And when you look at the universe, at the glittering stars, the sprawling galaxies, the drifting nebulae, you are looking at the consequences of force and field, the resonance of invisible hands weaving possibility into form. But here's the most staggering part. These forces are not independent. They are deeply connected at high enough energies, temperatures and conditions like those moments after the Big Bang. Scientists believe these forces were unified. A single force, fracturing as the universe cooled and expanded, splitting into the tapestry we now observe. The strong force broke away first. Then electromagnetism and the weak force split. And even now, electromagnetism and the weak force remain two faces of a single entity, the electro-weak interaction. Hidden symmetries, lost unities, fragmented echoes of a simpler time. We are living in the aftershocks of that breaking. The forces that govern our lives are the scar tissue of the universe's early decisions. And if the energy were high enough, If we could recreate the conditions of the Big Bang, the forces might recombine again, revealing the deeper, simpler order beneath the complexity we now see. Some call this quest the search for a grand unified theory, a single equation that ties all forces, all matter, all existence into one harmonious framework. We have not found it yet, but the structure of atoms,
The way they hold together,
the way they interact, the way they endure, whispers that such unity once existed. It whispers that the universe is not chaos. It is coherence, born from the hidden music of invisible forces, and you are a note in that music. Every atom inside you hums with tension, with balance, with a silent agreement between forces older than time. You are not fighting the universe. You are not outside it. You are the beautiful consequence of forces that, for reasons we still barely understand, chose to hold hands instead of tear themselves apart. And so every heartbeat and every thought, every breath dash, is a continuation of a choice made billions of years ago. A choice written not in words, but in the forces that weave reality itself. If you could shrink yourself down, smaller than a cell, smaller than a molecule, smaller than an atom itself, you might expect to find peace, stillness, order. After all, the atom seems so stable from a distance, so structured, so serene, but the closer you get, the more that illusion crumbles. Inside every atom, beneath the veil of structure, is a storm, a chaos so vast, so relentless, that it defies everything your senses have taught you about how the world should behave. At the quantum scale, nothing is still, nothing is certain. Particles do not have precise locations. Electrons do not orbit in neat circles. Protons and neutrons are not quiet, resting beads of matter. Instead, reality becomes a blur, a wild, unceasing vibration of fields and forces, of probabilities colliding and refracting in an endless dance. This is the quantum storm, a storm you are made of, a storm that never ends. Inside the atom, electrons exist not as points, but as probability clouds, regions where they might be found, but never with perfect certainty. An electron does not move from one place to another in the way a planet orbits a star. It appears, it vanishes, it smears across space until you try to measure it. And in that act of observation, you collapse its possibilities into a single fleeting answer. Until then, the electron is everywhere it could be and nowhere at all. The nucleus, that dense cluster of protons and neutrons, is not a static monument either. It is a battlefield. Inside, protons and neutrons, quarks, churn and writhe, held together by gluons, the carriers of the strong nuclear force. But these gluons are not passive. They are not polite. They spawn virtual quark-antiquark pairs, borrow energy from the vacuum, build and collapse miniature storms of matter and antimatter within the proton itself. A proton is not a thing. It is an event, a rolling thunderhead of quarks, gluons, and fields. A swirling dynamic process that somehow maintains enough coherence to appear solid. And the space between the nucleus and the electron cloud, you might imagine it as empty, silent, waiting, but even there, the storm rages. According to quantum field theory, the empty space is not truly empty. It teems with fluctuations, particles popping into existence for fractions of a second, then annihilating one another back into nothingness. Virtual particles, a restless ocean beneath the visible world. These vacuum fluctuations alter the behavior of atoms in subtle, measurable ways. They create forces where none should exist, shift the energy levels of electrons, bend the structure of space itself. Even in perfect stillness, there is no stillness. The atom, then, is not a marble. It is not a machine. It is a storm made of storms. An endless negotiation between chaos and order, uncertainty and persistence, wildness and form. You are not made of solid pieces. You are made of probabilities, of fluctuations, of forces forever fighting and recombining beneath the surface of what you call real. And yet, out of this ceaseless turbulence emerges structure, stability, The atom does not collapse, the electron does not fall into the nucleus. The proton does not dissolve into a spray of fragments. Instead, patterns emerge, energy levels stabilize, forces balance, matter persists. It is one of the great miracles of existence, that out of infinite quantum possibilities, a few stable forms can arise and endure. Enough to build hydrogen, enough to build carbon, enough to build life, enough to build you. And it is not just atoms. The same quantum storm underpins everything. The light that strikes your eye is a vibration in the electromagnetic field, a ripple in the same quantum ocean, the gravitational field that holds you to the Earth may itself be a shadow of quantum processes we have not yet fully understood. Everything is quantum at its core. And quantum does not mean small. Quantum means unpredictable. Quantum means relational. Quantum means alive in a way that machines and stones are not. It means that every atom in your body is not a dead thing, but a dynamic event, a symphony of fields forever adjusting, forever dancing, forever remembering the conditions that allowed them to exist at all. It means you are not made of parts. You are made of processes. It means that life itself, thought itself, consciousness itself, may not be aberrations in a cold mechanical universe, but natural consequences of a cosmos that has never, even for a moment, been still. And so when you stand beneath the stars, when you look up at the impossible stretch of galaxies scattered across the void, you are not gazing at a distant mystery. You are seeing a reflection. You are the storm looking at the storm. You are the quantum field, briefly aware of itself. You are a ripple inside a ripple, born from uncertainty, carried by possibility, held together by forces that remember a time when there was only chaos. And still within you, the quantum storm rages on. Every breath, every thought, every heartbeat. A continuation of the turbulence that shaped the first atoms. A reminder that stillness is an illusion, that solidity is a miracle, that inside every atom, inside every moment, the universe is still wild, still restless, still becoming. Out of the quantum storm, out of the endless fluctuations, collisions, and uncertainties, something astonishing happens. Patterns emerge, structures form, not perfectly and not always, but often enough that complexity becomes possible. Atoms, these restless storms of particles and forces, begin to organize. They bond, they cluster, they create connections, and in doing so, they write the first words of the universe's story. Because atoms are not just particles, they are letters, they are symbols, they are the alphabet of existence. When hydrogen bonds with oxygen, it creates water dash dash. A molecule so simple, so common, yet so essential that without it, life as we know it would be impossible. When carbon binds with hydrogen and oxygen, it creates sugars, the basic fuel of biological life. Nitrogen and hydrogen come together to form amino acids, the scaffolding for proteins, for cells, for thought itself. Atoms speak to each other through bonds. Chemical bonds are conversations, negotiations of energy, of structure, of possibility. Some bonds are strong, sharing electrons in tight embraces. Others are looser, exchanging electrons like gifts. Through these conversations, molecules are built. Through these molecules, complexity rises. DNA, the blueprint of all life, is just a long, twisting sentence written in the language of atoms. Stars are born because hydrogen atoms fuse into helium, and that fusion ignites a chain reaction of energy and pressure, a stellar flame that can burn for billions of years. Planets form because atoms condense into minerals and metals, clumping together under the gentle but relentless pull of gravity. Oceans shimmer, forests grow, creatures rise and fall, all because atoms keep speaking, keep connecting, keep combining in new and wondrous ways. You are not separate from this process. You are its latest chapter. Every thought you have, every dream, every memory, every moment of awareness is the result of atoms in conversation. Neurons fire because charged atoms cross membranes. Signals flash across synapses because atoms rearrange their bonds. Emotions surge through your body because atoms transmit hormones through the blood. You are not just made of atoms, you are the way atoms tell stories. You are a living paragraph. In a book that has been writing itself for 13.8 billion years. And here's the wonder, the rules that govern these conversations are universal. The same chemistry that binds atoms into DNA on Earth could bind them into other structures on other worlds. The language of atoms is not Earth's alone, it is the common tongue of the cosmos. Wherever there is matter,
Wherever there are stars and planets,
there is the potential for chemistry. And wherever there is chemistry, there is the potential for complexity, for structure, for life, for thought. The universe is not silent, it is speaking. Across the void,
across the galaxies,
across time. Speaking in bonds and reactions, speaking in forces and fields, speaking in atoms endlessly arranging themselves into meaning. And you are fluent in this language, even if you have never been taught. Every breath you take, every cell that divides inside you, every heartbeat is an act of chemical fluency. Your body knows the grammar of atoms. It knows how to read the electric charges, how to interpret the magnetic pulls, how to dance with the forces that allow existence to unfold. And it does so without thought, without hesitation, without even realizing it speaks. You are a living poem, written in the syntax of Stardust, a melody composed of atomic symphonies, a thought born from patterns in the quantum foam. And so when you look at the night sky, when you see the endless scatter of stars across the black, know that you are not merely looking outward, you are listening. You are hearing the universe speaking in the only voice it has ever known. The voice of atoms combining and recombining, of molecules forming and breaking, of complexity emerging from chaos. You are hearing a language so ancient that it predates stars, so powerful that it gave rise to galaxies, so precise that it can build consciousness out of storms and dust and silence. And this language does not end with you. Long after your body returns to the earth, your atoms will continue to speak. They will rejoin the soil, the rivers, the air. They will be taken up by trees, by animals, by new generations of life. They will become new structures, new thoughts, new songs. The words you are made of will not be lost. They will be recycled, rewritten, retold. In the great ongoing story of the cosmos, you are part of a sentence that will never truly end. Because the universe has no final word, only endless combinations, endless expressions, endless becoming. And every atom inside you, every tiny storm of uncertainty and force, is still writing, still dreaming, still speaking. Not all atoms endure. In fact, most possibilities for matter do not survive at all. The universe is not a place of perfect symmetry, nor effortless stability. It is a battlefield, a war between chaos and form, between the infinite hunger of entropy and the fragile architectures that dare to resist it. Atoms, for all their beauty, for all their elegant equations, are products of survival. They are the winners of a cosmic lottery where most numbers are torn apart before they can even be read. At the beginning, after the universe cooled enough for atoms to form, hydrogen dominated. Simple, durable, one proton, one electron, the first survivor. But complexity demanded risk. Heavier atoms, carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, required elaborate structures inside their nuclei. Protons packed alongside neutrons, balancing their mutual repulsion with the grip of the strong nuclear force. And in that balance, danger lurked. Too many protons, and the electromagnetic repulsion would tear the nucleus apart. Too few neutrons, and the structure would collapse into decay. Every element heavier than hydrogen had to find its narrow, treacherous path between instability and annihilation. Some did, others failed. There are isotopes, versions of elements with different numbers of neutrons, that are so unstable they exist only for fractions of a second before breaking apart. They never form atoms, they never bond. They never know the stability that allows complexity to build. They are whispers, flickers, unfinished sentences in the language of matter. And even among stable atoms, decay is always waiting. Uranium, heavy and potent, breaks down over millions of years, its massive nucleus too bloated to last forever. Potassium, vital for life, decays into argon, slowly changing its identity over geological time. Inside the Earth, inside your own body, tiny radioactive transformations are happening even now. Quiet, constant reminders that nothing is truly permanent. Stability is not a gift. It is a hard-fought compromise. It is the result of forces pulling in opposite directions, reaching a momentary agreement to not fall apart. Atoms persist because the universe allows just enough balance, just enough tension, just enough resistance to chaos. And it is this fragile stability that makes everything else possible. Stars could not form if hydrogen were unstable. Water could not exist if oxygen could not hold onto its electrons. Life could not emerge if carbon could not build strong, flexible chains of molecules. Your body is not just a collection of atoms. It is a collection of atoms that, against staggering odds, have managed to persist long enough to build cells, tissues, thoughts. You are the improbable consequence of matter, briefly winning its war against dissolution. And it is not a permanent victory. Even stable atoms, under the right conditions, can be broken. Intense heat, like that inside a star, can smash nuclei together, forcing new elements to form. Intense pressure, like that inside a collapsing supernova, can forge new architectures of matter in fractions of a second. Even the atoms inside your body are constantly at risk. Not just from external forces, but from the slow, inevitable decay written into the physics of existence itself. But that is part of the beauty. Stability is precious because it is not guaranteed. Order is miraculous because it rises out of chaos, not in spite of it, but because of it. The struggle itself is what gives meaning to persistence. Every rock, every river, every tree, every breath, each is the aftermath of atoms fighting to hold their form, long enough to matter, long enough to leave a mark, long enough to be seen. The iron in your blood was not inevitable. It was stitched together in the heart of a star, held by forces just strong enough to endure, then hurled into space by explosions powerful enough to tear atoms apart, but delicate enough to leave some intact. The oxygen you breathe, the calcium in your bones, the carbon in your cells, all are survivors of ancient cataclysms. The rare few atoms that did not fall to entropy, that were not smashed or scattered into forgetfulness, the ones that clung to form. Long enough to become part of a world, long enough to become part of you, and even now, your survival, your breath, your awareness, your being dash, depends on the precarious balance of atoms refusing to dissolve. Chemical bonds holding just tightly enough. Cells resisting entropy just a little longer. Electrons clinging to nuclei despite the endless pressure to fall apart. You are a structure within a structure, an arrangement of fragile persistence, inside a universe forever pulling toward disorder. And yet, here you are, breathing, thinking, wondering. The atoms of your body are the atoms of the stars, the atoms of the oceans and the trees and the distant planets. All are engaged in the same struggle. A quiet, invisible rebellion against decay, a rebellion that has allowed matter to build worlds, to build dreams, to build the miracle of conscious life, emerging from unconscious dust. And so, when you feel fragile, when you feel small, remember, you are made from atoms that survived. A universe that is designed to tear itself apart. You are a monument to improbability, a cathedral built from the stubbornness of structure, a brief and beautiful defiance of the void. You are stability, riding on the edge of chaos. You are the unlikely, proving itself real. And for as long as your atoms hold together, for as long as the universe allows, you will carry forward the story of matter's greatest triumph, the triumph of being, over the silence that waits beneath, When you imagine empty space, you probably picture silence, stillness, a void, a black canvas where nothing moves, nothing speaks, nothing is. But this idea is a lie, because emptiness in the quantum universe is anything but empty. The space inside an atom, the vast gulf between the nucleus and the electron cloud, may seem hollow, dead, meaningless, but it's not. It's alive, and it is seething, it is restless, it is full of things that should not exist, and yet somehow do. This space is known as the quantum vacuum, a place that is not truly nothing, but a field. A set of fields, in fact, twitching with energy, always on the brink of becoming. Even in perfect darkness, even at absolute zero, even in the absence of all particles and all light, the vacuum still hums, it bubbles with virtual particles. Pairs of matter and antimatter that spontaneously emerge from the fabric of space, exist for the briefest breath of time, then annihilate and disappear. They do not break the laws of physics, because they exist only long enough to borrow energy from the void and repay it by vanishing again. It's a kind of quantum loan, a loophole in existence, and it happens everywhere, inside every atom, inside every molecule, inside you. The space between things is not a gap, it is an ocean. Boiling, shifting, forever unstable. It is where the universe hides its rawest truth, that reality never stops moving. Even when it looks like nothing is happening, something always is. This vacuum energy isn't just theoretical. We can see its effects. The Casimir effect, for example, occurs when two uncharged metal plates are placed extremely close together in a vacuum. According to classical physics, nothing should happen, but quantum physics knows better. The plates begin to attract each other, not because of gravity or charge, but because the virtual particles between them are squeezed, limited in how they can form. Outside the plates, the vacuum fluctuates freely. Inside, it is restricted, and the imbalance creates a pressure, a force arising from what should be nothing. This force has been measured. This is not speculation. This is the signature of a restless universe. Another example, Lamb shifts in atomic energy levels, tiny deviations in the expected behavior of electrons, caused by their interaction with the vacuum itself. It's as if the electrons are being nudged by invisible hands, as if the silence of the void has a voice, a whisper that slightly adjusts the music of the atom. Even Hawking radiation, the slow leakage of particles from the event horizons of black holes, depends on the quantum vacuum. A black hole can steal one half of a virtual pair, letting the other escape as real, detectable radiation, meaning that even the darkest place in the universe cannot silence the vacuum entirely, because the vacuum is not the absence of being, it is the foundation of being. It is the sea from which all matter rises, a storm beneath the surface of everything, and that includes you. Right now, the atoms in your body are not resting, they are floating in quantum foam, a churning sea of potentiality that never stops moving, never stops influencing, never stops shaping what comes next. Inside your atoms, the vacuum is at work, adjusting energy levels, perturbing forces, birthing and destroying virtual particles faster than the speed of thought. Even your sense of space and time, your sense of distance and emptiness, depends on the way these fluctuations define the limits of measurement. You are held together by forces born in what looks like nothing, by tensions woven into the blank spaces between matter, by silence that hums with power. And if that doesn't make you question everything, listen to this. Some theories suggest that the vacuum energy of the universe is not just a backdrop, but a driver of cosmic evolution. The expansion of the universe may be powered in part by vacuum fluctuations, a kind of built-in pressure that stretches space itself, the thing we call dark energy. The mysterious force accelerating the expansion of the cosmos may in fact be the quantum vacuum and expressing itself on a universal scale, the nothingness inside your atoms. Maybe the same nothingness that's tearing galaxies apart from one another, pushing the edges of the universe faster and faster into the unknown. So when you look between the stars, or between your fingers, or inside a single atom of hydrogen, and you think you see nothing, remember that nothing is everything. It is where particles are born. It is where forces live. It is where the universe dreams. The vacuum is the mother of reality, the canvas, the womb, the hidden machinery behind every visible thing. It is not empty. It is infinite, and it is always becoming. Inside every atom, between every neutron and electron, is this quiet sea. Invisible, indifferent, and yet necessary. Without it, there would be no forces, no particles, no atoms, no matter, no life. Without it, there would be no you. You are not suspended in emptiness. You are suspended in a storm that never ends. And somehow, from that storm, stability emerged, structure emerged, consciousness emerged. And now, you are here. A voice of the vacuum. A pattern pulled from silence. A ripple in a sea that never rests. You've heard it before. You're made of stardust. But that's not a metaphor. It's not poetry. It's not philosophy dressed as science. It's a fact. It's one of the most astonishing, humbling truths the universe has ever revealed. Because inside your body, in your blood, your skin, your teeth, your bones, are atoms that were born in stars. Literally, when you touch your chest, when you look in the mirror, you're looking at the aftermath of stellar explosions. The calcium in your bones was forged in the death of massive stars. The iron in your blood was cooked into being during the collapse of a red giant. The oxygen in your lungs was born from the fusion cycles of stars that shone and died before Earth even formed. You are not just descended from life. You are descended from fire, from gravity, from collapse, from cataclysm. And you carry that history with you, not in storybooks, but in your molecular structure. Your skeleton is a fossil, not just of biology, but of the cosmos itself. When a massive star ends its life in a supernova, its death is not the end. It is an act of creation. In those final milliseconds that the heat and pressure become so intense, that iron, the death element of stars, fuses into something more. Heavy elements, rare elements. The kind that make planets solid, oceans salty, blood red. The debris of those stellar deaths floats through the galaxy. For millions of years, it drifts, it cools, it condenses, and eventually, it forms new systems, new stars, new planets. Your planet, this one. And on this world, with its oceans and forests, its volcanoes and magnetic fields, those scattered atoms reassembled themselves once more. They built cells, then tissue, then thought, then memory, then meaning, then you. You are not merely made of atoms. You are made of astronomical inheritance. The same atoms inside you, the exact same types, exist in the crust of the moon, in the rings of Saturn, in the corona of the sun. They are not human, they are not alive, they are not yours. You are borrowing them. For now, you are a temporary pattern using ancient matter to play a fleeting, beautiful game. And when your game ends, those atoms will return to the world. They will rejoin the cycle. They will form rocks, or clouds, or other people, or stars again. Your atoms are immortal. They have no memory, no loyalty, no identity. And yet, somehow they made you. They built a system, complex enough to wonder about its own origin. They built a brain, capable of folding space and time inward, asking the impossible question, what am I? And the answer is already inside you. Not in metaphor, not in soul, but in mass. The atoms that make your bones and blood are records of thermonuclear events that happened long before humanity existed. You are living proof that stars exploded. You are walking evidence that the universe is not still. You are a story written in particles, told across billions of years. The story is not about your name, not about your job, not about your fears or your goals. The story is about how the universe, starting from nothing, built you, piece by piece, collapse by collapse, bond by bond. Atoms formed you, atoms animate you. Atoms will outlive you. And when your form fades, when your thoughts end, the story written in your bones will continue. Your calcium will nourish the soil. Your iron will re-enter the Earth's crust. Your oxygen will float through the atmosphere. Your carbon will find its way into something new, a tree, a breath, a wave, a child. And one day, perhaps far from now, those atoms will be launched into the sky again, lifted up in a fire, burned, released, returned to the stars they once came from. You are not finished when you end. You are recycled, retold, rewritten. The story of you will become the story of something else, and the atoms that once wondered what they were will continue to wander, searching, becoming again and again. And this is not sad, it is sacred, because meaning does not come from permanence, it comes from connection, from recognizing that you are not above the universe, not outside of it, not even separate from it. You are within it, of it. You are its memory. You are its experiment. You are its story, told in the language of bones. And when your story ends, the atoms will remain, the page will turn, and the universe will keep writing. We tend to think small means simple, that the tiniest parts of the universe are mere footnotes, ingredients, background noise, things that matter only because they build something bigger. But that's not how atoms work, because inside each atom is a scale-defying vastness, a structure so exaggerated in proportion, so profoundly empty, so wildly stretched, that it makes the solar system look cramped. It's hard to believe, but it's true. If the nucleus of a hydrogen atom were the size of a grain of rice, the nearest electron would be orbiting nearly 100 meters away. That's not metaphor, that's physics, that's real. And in between? Nothing. Not air, not vapor, not invisible gas, just a strange kind of emptiness. The kind that isn't really empty, the kind that still hums with fields, with energy, with uncertainty. Inside you are trillions upon trillions of atoms, and in each of them is more empty space than solid matter. You are mostly space. You are not a solid object, but a lattice of forces woven together from structures that are, by volume, nearly entirely void. And yet you feel whole. You feel dense. You feel here. But here is misleading. Inside an atom, the mass is centered in the nucleus, an impossibly tiny dot at the center of a vast volume. The electron cloud, probabilistic and jittering, isn't orbiting like a planet. It's existing dash. As a haze of possibilities, a ghost wrapped around a silence. It's humbling to realize our experience of matter is just an illusion of field interactions, of resistance, of vibration. You don't touch things. Your atoms never truly collide with others. The forces between electrons push back before contact ever happens. Even solidity is a misunderstanding of space. And yet, paradoxically, this empty architecture becomes the basis of everything. Rocks, oceans, mountains, people, planets. The vastness inside the atom allows structure to form, because if atoms were packed tight like billiard balls, there would be no room for chemistry, no space for bonds, no freedom for movement. But atoms are flexible frameworks. The infinity inside each one is not a flaw, it's a feature. It's what allows matter to stretch, to build, to bend, to become. And that's not just poetic, it's practical. Proteins fold into delicate three-dimensional structures because atoms can arrange themselves with exquisite precision across that internal vastness. DNA twists and spirals through your cells because the atomic gaps allow for compact information storage at astonishing scales. Even the scent of a flower, the rush of adrenaline, the colors your eyes perceive, all rely on atoms behaving not like spheres, but like resonant fields, capable of complexity, capable of meaning. And so, while the atom is infinitesimal in size, it carries within it a kind of infinity. not just in space, but in potential.
There is more possibility in the space between an atom's nucleus and its electron
than in miles of empty desert. Because within that space, forces live. Fields ripple,
quantum energies pulse,
and decisions are made. When a photon hits your eye, it's absorbed by an electron in an atom. That electron jumps to a new energy level. A decision is made. That atom will help send a signal to your brain. You will see light, you will feel. Everything you know and everything you are depends on that vast invisible distance within the atom. So perhaps we've misunderstood what it means to be small. Because inside the smallest pieces of matter, the universe hides its greatest stage, a playground for its laws, a testing ground for its forces, a blank page where it writes the scripts of stars and skin and thought. Inside each atom is a rehearsal of the universe at large, the balance between attraction and repulsion, between gravity and energy, between explosion and structure. It's all there, scaled down, played out again and again in silence. And here's what's even stranger. The mathematics we use to describe these inner infinities are often the same we use to describe black holes,
to describe the expansion of space,
to describe the beginning of time. The atom is not just a building block, it is a reflection,
a fractal,
a fragment of the whole. Inside the tiniest corner of reality,
the entire script is rehearsed.
Not as a metaphor, as structure, as truth. So the next time you look at your hand, at a glass of water, at a breath in cold air, remember what's inside. Not just atoms, not just protons and electrons and fields, but distance, spaciousness, infinity, curled inward, humming with energy, holding you together without ever truly being together. The infinitesimal isn't the end of the road. It's the beginning. It's the place where matter stops pretending to be solid and starts telling the truth. The truth that space is not a backdrop. It's a player, a participant, a condition of being. And atoms, the smallest units of matter we know, are not compact, efficient units. They are cathedrals of silence, echoing with the laws that keep the universe alive. And somehow, from all that nothing, you were formed, you were shaped. In a place where space outnumbers substance by a factor of billions. You are not small, you are not solid. You are a vast structure built on a scaffold of tension and of emptiness, of whispering force. You are the void, made visible. And inside you, inside every atom, the universe hides a mirror. After everything, after all the storms and fields and distances, after the collapses and cataclysms and quiet architectures of the atom, we are left with a question, not of how, but of why. Why should something so unstable persist? Why should storms of probability, held together by invisible forces, form into stars? Why should stars die to make elements? Why should atoms assemble into molecules, into cells, into thoughts? Why should a universe made of noise somehow produce meaning? It's tempting to say there is no reason that the universe just happened, that atoms exist because the laws of physics said they could, and everything else is just a consequence. And yet, look closer. The patterns are too intricate,
the balance is too precise,
the emergence of order from chaos too relentless to ignore. Atoms, for all their violence, their emptiness, their instability, keep finding ways to build structure. They keep resisting decay long enough to become something more. They are not static. They are not fixed. They are processes, events, patterns of balance and transformation. And yet, from this constant change, we get the illusion of permanence. We get mountains. We get DNA. We get memory. We get being. Atoms teach us that reality is not made of things. It is made of relationships, not objects, but interactions, not parts, but tension. The forces that hold atoms together, strong, electromagnetic, gravitational, are not things. They are agreements. They are invisible contracts that say, here we will persist, here we will not fall apart. And in those agreements, structure is born. You are not made of matter alone. You are made of coherence, of countless forces choosing every moment to keep you from dissolving into the void. And yet, you are temporary. Your atoms will not hold forever. Your thoughts will fade. Your pattern will blur and scatter. But that does not mean you are meaningless. It means you are a moment, a resonance, a brief, beautiful equilibrium between chaos and collapse. And that's what atoms show us. That meaning doesn't require permanence. That life doesn't require stillness. That something can matter, even as it changes. Especially as it changes. In fact, change is the only constant the atom has ever known. Quarks never stop moving. Electrons never stop fluctuating. Fields never stop rippling. And yet, the atom holds. You hold. And from that holding, a universe emerges. So maybe being isn't about control, or mastery, or even survival. Maybe being is about balance. About finding the place between explosion and silence. Between form and freedom. Between the gravity that pulls and the charge that repels. You are already doing this. Every breath is a molecular negotiation. Every heartbeat is an electromagnetic miracle. Every thought is a storm inside a storm, held in place by tension we still barely understand. And all of it, all of you, began with atoms. With particles that should have fallen apart. With fields that should have stayed in chaos, with spaces so empty they should have never held anything at all. And yet, they did. They held. They built. They became. So what do atoms teach us about being? They teach us that form is fragile, but not weak, that silence is not empty, but full of possibility, that the universe is not a machine, cold and uncaring, but a story. Told in the language of charge and spin and symmetry, a story in which you are a sentence made of the rarest alphabet, stability, resonance, intention. Atoms have no purpose, and yet they persist. That they have no goal, and yet they organize. They do not know they are building minds or stars or meaning, but they do it anyway. And that might be the greatest lesson of all, that you do not need certainty. To matter, you do not need permanence. To leave a trace, you do not need to be everything, to be something. Because the universe does not ask you to last forever. It only asks you to be real for a moment. To hum in harmony with the forces that hold you. To resist the silence just long enough to be heard. And when your atoms finally return, when they dissolve back into the fields and void from which they came, they will not be lost. They will carry your pattern forward, into soil, into sky, into stars. You will continue, not as self, but as structure, as influence, as echo, just as the atoms in you once belonged to someone or something else. This is the cycle. This is the truth that atoms know and that we are just beginning to remember. That being is not the opposite of nothing. It is the shape that nothing takes when it chooses to exist. So what have we learned? We set out to understand atoms. But along the way, we found the universe staring back at us, not from the stars above, but from within. From the trembling spaces inside our own cells, from the ghost fields between protons and electrons, from the silence that binds structure to meaning. We learned that atoms are not things, but tensions, not objects, but fragile agreements between forces. We learned that the most fundamental parts of matter are mostly nothing, that the structure of reality is built not on substance, but on space. That what appears solid is a trick of resistance, a refusal to collapse, a momentary harmony between explosion and order. And yet, from this emptiness, everything arises: stars, mountains, rivers, thoughts. You, inside every atom, we found infinity curled inward, a cosmic recursion, a whisper that what is small can hold what is vast. We discovered that atoms are not eternal, but determined, not inevitable, but victorious. They survive against a backdrop of chaos. They persist through the decay of time. They endure through fire, through pressure, through collapse. They are survivors, and so are you. Your breath, your bones, your blood, all borrowed from stars long dead, carved from collisions and supernovas, and the seething silence of a vacuum that never sleeps. Your body is a memory, a fossil made of motion, a resonance made of pattern. You are not made of permanence. You are made of persistence. And when you feel small, when you feel forgotten, when the weight of the cosmos presses too heavily on your shoulders, remember, you are the universe folded into form, briefly aware of itself. You are atoms that know they are atoms, a storm aware that it's spinning, a question asking itself aloud. The atoms that make you have no thoughts, no dreams, no desires, and yet they built a mind, they built memory, they built meaning. And now here you are, sitting in the dark, listening to the voice of a stranger, wondering about particles you cannot see. And that is beautiful, because it means the universe is still writing, still creating, still arranging its scattered debris into things that can ask why. And it means that you, right now, are a continuation of that process. A sentence in a cosmic book with no final chapter. You are a bridge between fire and silence, between the cold past and the unwritten future. And when your time ends, you will not end. Your atoms will scatter. They will return to the soil, to the air, to the stars. They will become new things, new patterns, new questions. Your voice will fade, but the matter you borrowed will speak again. So what does that make you? A moment, a mystery, a ripple in the structure of reality. That dared to ask what it is. You are not alone. You never were. You are built from atoms that have touched galaxies, that have passed through suns, that have endured time and collision and collapse. And those atoms, for this one brief flicker, are you. And that is enough. So remember this, you are not made of nothing. You are made of the silence that came before the stars. You are not separate from the universe. You are the universe. A question it asked itself, and somehow, in this fleeting moment, answered. Thank you for joining us on this extraordinary journey through the cosmos here on Frontiers of Infinity. If this glimpse into the unknown has sparked your curiosity, be sure to subscribe and join us each Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern, where we unravel the darkest mysteries of space.